Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig into your sources to pull out those surprising, unforgettable insights. Today, we're plunging into a true global phenomenon, Tite Kubo's Bleach. Now, for many of you, Bleach means, pulse-pounding combat, incredible sword fights, and just a whole roster of outrageously cool characters. And you're not wrong, it is a battle shonen powerhouse. But what if I told you that to categorize it as just battle shonen is to completely miss its profound conversation with, centuries of Japanese folklore?
That's precisely it. This deep dive isn't just about the flashy techniques, fun as they are. Our mission is really to show you how Tite Kubo, the brilliant mind behind Bleach, didn't just borrow traditional concepts of death gods, ghosts, and the afterlife. He masterfully broke them down, then kind of cleverly built them back up into something entirely new. We'll reveal how these supernatural entities, the Shinigami and the Hollows, are transformed from these ambiguous folk spirits into foundational pillars for a truly profound narrative, exploring identity, trauma, and, ultimately self-actualization.
It's quite a journey. So we're going to start by uncovering the elusive origins of the Shinigami, then move to the truly tragic roots of the Hollows. From there, we'll explore how Bleach reimagines them into everything from a rigid, kind of feudal-esque bureaucracy to these monstrous allegories of despair. And all this culminates in a powerful story about finding true strength, not in ideological purity, but in courageously accepting your complex, sometimes contradictory self. Let's unpack this. So let's kick things off with the Shinigami. When you hear death god, you probably picture some ancient deity, right? Like a Greek Hades or an Egyptian Anubis with this long-established history. But the term Shinigami itself is surprisingly modern in Japan.
It really is. The word Shinigami, it only started appearing regularly during the Edo period, which was, 1603 to 1868? And its popularization as a personified, almost human-like entity is even more recent, largely a post-war development, actually, heavily influenced by the Western Grim Reaper figure. So you won't find a single unified god of death in classical Japanese mythology or literature. Not really. It was more a broad classification for various death-related phenomena.
Okay, so not some revered ancient god. What were these folkloric Shinigami like then, if they weren't one single thing?
Far from revered. Often they were depicted as, malevolent or mischievous spirits. Closer perhaps to yurei, faint spirits or ghosts or maybe even Oni, demons. Imagine local legends of these spirits haunting death sites, luring people towards their demise, or even spiritually possessing individuals who neglected ancient rites, inciting them to suicide. It's really quite chilling folk horror.
That's a seriously dark origin.
Yeah.
So from these varied, often malevolent spirits, how did Kubo manage to build such a structured, almost, noble organization like the Gotei 13?
That's where the genius comes in. While there were influences, sure, you can maybe see threads from figures like the Buddhist demon Mara or underworld judges like Enma, and even the Shinto goddess Izanami no Mikoto, who first brought death to humans. But the concept itself was very vague, very multifaceted. Kubo took this chaotic folk spirit and completely codified it. He didn't just borrow them, he built a bureaucracy out of them. He transformed a chaotic folk concept into the Gotei 13 structured, uniformed, bureaucratic. And this is a fundamental shift. You go from folk horror to cosmic bureaucracy, which allows for these rich, complex narratives about politics, justice, individual conscience, everything that unfolds in Bleach.
Okay, so that's the Shinigami. Now, if they were a radical departure from folklore, the Hollows seem to take a more direct route, right? Still allegorized, but more direct. They draw heavily from traditional Japanese ghost lore, specifically the yurei and the terrifying Onrai, the vengeful spirit.
You can see the blueprint so clearly. In Japanese belief, everyone has a reikon, a soul, if someone dies violently or if the proper rites aren't performed, or, crucially, if they're bound by powerful, unresolved emotions, revenge, profound, love, jealousy, hatred, sorrow, that reikon can transform into a yurei.
And Bleach adopts this principle directly for Hollows, doesn't it?
Exactly. A deceased soul, called a plus in the series, is anchored by its chain of fate, the Inga no Kusari. If that chain corrodes, usually due to regret or intense attachment, a gaping hole opens up in the soul's chest, and boom, it violently transforms into a hollow. It's a physical manifestation of that unresolved emotional pain.
And among those yurei, the Onreis are the ones you really don't want to encounter. These are ghosts born from an all-consuming grudge, right?
Yeah.
People deeply wronged in life, whose rage is so powerful it can't be contained by death, seeking indiscriminate vengeance.
And this directly mirrors the predatory, corrupting nature of Hollows. They're driven by this endless hunger, and they can even convert other souls. A key characteristic of Japanese ghosts is that they're often tied to a specific person or emotion, not necessarily a physical location. Bleach's hollows exemplify this. They often attack the very people they loved most. Think of Orihime Inua's brother, Sora. He became the hollow acid wire. His deep love combined with this possessive, jealous rage that led directly to his transformation and attack on her. A classic example.
So we've traced these threads of ancient vengeance right into the Hollow's very being. But what does that hole in their chest really represent? And how does Kubo make that psychological horror so tangible?
The gaping hole, it perfectly symbolizes the loss of its heart, its kokoro, its emotional core. Kubo takes the Onrei's insatiable emotional need for vengeance and translates it into the Hollow's insatiable physical need to consume souls. It's literally trying to fill an emotional void with physical substance. It makes the psychological horror something you can not only see, but actively fight against.
So with that foundation laid, let's step into the incredible worlds Kubo built. He filled that Shinigami void by creating Soul Society, a realm modeled on an idealized feudal Japan. But like you said, this isn't just an aesthetic choice. It truly creates a world of rigid honor, duty, and systemic inflexibility.
It's a profound narrative decision. The Shinigami are organized into the Gotei 13, a military structure, clear chain of command, captain commander down. This provides a brilliant system for, power scaling and introducing a diverse cast. Soul Society itself has stark class divisions. Noble families, the Shinigami, and the vast impoverished Rukongai district. This inherent social and political tension, it drives major plot arcs, most notably the whole Soul Society arc, really.
And their purpose isn't just local. They're cosmic custodians. Their job is maintaining the delicate balance of souls between the human world, Soul Society, and Hueco Mundo, the Hollow Realm. It elevates them from those ambiguous inviters to death to this grander, sometimes morally ambiguous cosmic purpose. And the rigorous ways captains ascend tests, recommendations, or even combat to the death explains how you get such different personalities, like the ancient Yamamoto and the, bloodthirsty Kenpachi coexisting within the same order.
And this entire structure isn't just world building. It's the engine for Bleach's deepest theme. That constant brutal conflict between rigid order and individual conscience, the strict laws, the ancient traditions of the Gotei 13, they're constantly tested. The Soul Society arc is a perfect example. Rukia's death sentence is the direct result of inflexible law. It's a punishment that many high-ranking officers, like Shunsui Kiraku and Jushiro Ukitake, privately question but feel bound by duty to uphold. This forces characters like Renji Abarai and Bikuya Kuchiki to choose between personal allegiances and unbending law. Even Aizen's betrayal is, in many ways, the ultimate manipulation of the system's rigidity.
Right, and within this structured society, Kubo introduces what I think is maybe his most brilliant narrative invention, the Zanpakuto, the soul cutter sword. This is so much more than just a weapon, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A Zanpakuto is the physical manifestation of a Shinigami's own soul, its form, its abilities. They're a direct reflection of the wielder's personality, their beliefs, their inner spiritual state. This allows for incredible diversity. Yamamoto's Rijinjaka embodies his destructive fire and authority, while Kitaraku's Ketten Kitratsu reflects his playful yet deadly nature with, children's games. Shinji Hirako's Sakanad mirrors his deceptive personality by inverting an opponent's senses. It's fantastic.
And the power progression is tied directly to their relationship with the sword, right? You learn its name for Shikai, the initial release. And then mastering Bankai, the final release, requires years of training and a really profound understanding of your own soul.
Crucially, yes. And each Zanpakuto has its own sentient spirit. A Shinigami has to build a relationship with it, creating a literal dialogue between a character and their own soul. This internal conversation is absolutely central to Ichigo Kurosaki's entire development. You see it play out again and again.
This system transforms abstract internal growth into something tangible, something combat-oriented. A character's evolution isn't just told to us. It's shown through their weapon. Ichigo's journey. Confronting his identity to learn Zangetsu's name, battling his inner soul for Bankai, these are prime examples. Every power-up is a character revelation. You see Renji's volatile Bankai reflecting his insecurities, contrasted with Byakuya's elegant, almost aloof mastery. It's truly brilliant storytelling. Okay, so from the rigid order of Soul Society, our deep dive now takes us to its chaotic counterpoint, the realm of the Hollows, these monstrous beings. Souls that failed to pass on, whose chain of fate corroded due to regret or despair, causing that hole to open up and violently transforming them.
And their design is deeply symbolic. Two features really define them: the skull-like mask and the gaping hole. The mask is a stark visual metaphor for the loss of self. It conceals their former identity, erasing their humanity from monstrous instinct. The whole represents the loss of their heart, their kokoro, the emotional and spiritual core, and this loss drives their insatiable hunger to devour other souls. A craving never truly satisfied. It's a direct physical manifestation of the folkloric onrei's emotional need for vengeance.
That's fascinating. And there's a connection to traditional Japanese no theater masks here, isn't there? But maybe you're inverted.
Serious, yeah, but it's an inversion. Masks are worn to assume a character or emotion, like the famous Hanya mask for a jealous onreis. The hollow mask does the opposite. It's violently formed, not chosen. It signifies the absence of complex emotions, replacing them with singular hunger. It's a symbol of de-individualization, basically a prison, which makes the Arrancar's act of breaking the mask from the Spanish Arrancar, meaning to tear off, such a powerful reclaiming of identity later on.
And Kubo takes the tragic static ghost a step further with his terrifying innovation, the Menos Grande evolutionary hierarchy. This system turns it into a dynamic, cannibalistic cosmos where hollows evolve by consuming one another. Pretty grim.
It's a dark and brilliant concept. There are three main stages. First, the Gillian, also known as Menos Grande. These are formed when hundreds, maybe thousands of individual hollows merge into a single, colossal, largely mindless entity. It's the ultimate loss of self, just a collective, instinctual consciousness.
And from that mindless mass, we get the Ajuchas. That's the next step.
Yes, if one strong-willed soul among the fused Gillian takes control, it can evolve into an Ajuchas, shrinking its body into a more condensed, powerful, and sentient form. But this individuality is fragile. They must constantly devour other hollows, especially other Ajuchas, to prevent regressing back into a mindless Gillian. If they stop, they lose their sense of self forever. Constant pressure.
Wow. And finally, the pinnacle, the Vasto Lorde.
These are the rarest and most powerful, few in number, humanoid, and rumored to surpass captain-level power. They represent the ultimate achievement in hollow existence. A stable, immense source of power, an individual identity forged against the collective chaos. This whole hierarchy, really, is a dark allegory for the struggle for selfhood against overwhelming despair. Gillian is mindless mass. Ajuchas is the violent birth of ego, always under threat. The desperate need to feed is a metaphor for predatory survival. The strong eat the weak. Vasto Lord represents transcending this brutal cycle, forging a stable self. It adds such tragic philosophical depth to these monsters.
Now, as the narrative progresses in Bleach, that clear Shinigami-Hollow dichotomy, it starts to completely break down, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This is embodied by hybrid factions like the Arrancar and the Vizards, collapsing those traditional boundaries.
Absolutely. The Arrancar are hollows who partially remove their masks, gaining Shinigami-like powers. They get a Zanpakutu, a humanoid form. Their power release, resurrection Spanish for resurrection, involves reabsorbing their sword to unleash their true hollow power. It's like a conscious integration of their monstrous past. And their Spanish motifs provide this fascinating cultural counterpoint to the Japanese Shinigami.
And then you have the Vizards, exiled Shinigami who acquired hollow powers, donning masks to augment their abilities. They're agents of order, harnessing forbidden chaos. So why these hybrids? What's the narrative purpose here? Is it just about power?
Well, power is part of it, sure. Susuke Eisen's central thesis is that the fusion of these opposing entities breaks limits, leading to power beyond what pure Shinigami or hollows could achieve. That's the philosophical core of the Arrancar arc. But narratively, the function of these beings is to prove that the enemy isn't an absolute other. It's a potential source of strength, a part of the self that can be integrated. This directly challenges Soul Society's orthodox purification doctrine and says maybe purity isn't the goal.
It's truly blurring the lines. You see an Arrancar like Okior Siffer just beginning to comprehend the heart through Orihime, or Shinji Hirako wielding chaotic hollow power with Shinigami discipline. It suggests true power lies not in ideological purity, but in the acceptance and synthesis of opposing forces within oneself.
And no character embodies this thematic convergence more completely than Ichigo Kurosaki. His entire arc is the ultimate embodiment of the series' core themes. His internal struggles mirror the world's external conflicts, basically.
Yeah, his motivation is so raw and relatable. That drive to protect others, born from the deep-seated trauma and guilt over his mother's death, it makes his quest for power incredibly personal, not just abstract.
And his main obstacle is his inner hollow, White Ichigo, who is later revealed to be Zangetsu, his true Zanpakutu spirit. This inner being represents everything he initially fears and rejects. Primal instincts, aggression, that fear of losing control.
His journey of acceptance is just central. He initially fears and suppresses it, which actually makes him weaker. Then he grudgingly uses its power, terrified of becoming a monster. But the climax comes when he finally understands this. Hollow is an inseparable, essential part of his soul, a manifestation of his survival instincts and his desire to protect. It's not other, it's him.
And his final revelation, that his power is a composite of Shinigami, Hollow, and Quincy heritage, solidifies his status as the ultimate hybrid. His dual-bladed Zanpakuto is the literal and symbolic culmination of his self-actualization. He accepts all of it.
So essentially, it's not just cool fights. It's a whole philosophical battleground within Ichigo's own soul. If we look at the bigger picture, Ichigo's arc directly refutes the purist ideologies. Not just his enemies, but even some allies. Soul Society's traditionalism, exiling the Visors, the Quincy's hatred of hollows, they're shown as flawed. Ichigo's strength comes not from purity, but from his profound impurity, as it's sometimes put.
Exactly. He achieves power by accepting and harmonizing contradictory aspects of his soul. He wins not as a better Shinigami, but because he's more than just a Shinigami. His victory over Ewok, who seeks the singular, unchanging world without death. It's a victory for multiplicity and integrated identity.
Okay, so when all these layers are synthesized, what does Bleach ultimately offer us? As a profound meditation on life, death, and meaning in a world defined by inevitable loss.
It culminates in a really powerful statement, I think. The 1,000-Year Blood War arc truly highlights this. Yuash wants to destroy the cycle of life and death, create a static world without fear of death, but also without change or future. Ichigo, having experienced profound loss, rejects this completely. He embraces a world with death because the finality of death is what gives life its meaning and value.
This echoes philosophical ideas like Nietzsche's concepts of overcoming, pushing past one's limits, überwinding, and the will to power. The series presents fear of death and despair as these huge obstacles to human potential. Those who grow strongest face death and overcome that fear.
And for Ichigo, will to power is reframed really as will to protect. This desire gives him the strength to confront mortality and loss, ultimately affirming life's value despite the pain.
The manga's final monologue brings this to a poignant conclusion, stating that moving forward despite death's fear requires a special quality: courage.
And this courage isn't abstract. It's born from the heart, the kokoro, those connections and bonds between people. Yifwatch, who fears death, seeks a perfect but ultimately heartless world. Ichigo, who faces death and loss head-on, fights to preserve the imperfect, mortal world. The world where courage, connection, and love can actually exist and mean something.
So there you have it. Bleach is just a masterful example of how a modern story can reinterpret centuries of Japanese folklore, transforming ambiguous spirits into these profound allegories. The Shinigami become symbols of order and its inherent flaws, while hollows are powerful metaphors for despair and the desperate struggle for identity.
And at its core, embodied by Ichigo, the series' message seems to be that true strength comes not from purity, not from rejecting what we fear, but from the courageous integration of all facets of our identity, even the messy, contradictory ones.
So what stands out to you listening to this? Think about the masks we wear, maybe the parts of ourselves we suppress, and the courage it takes to embrace all of them. How do we find meaning and connection in a world defined by both joy and inevitable loss? It's definitely a powerful question for all of us.